Ladies and gentlemen, the people who pontificate about morality, the people who will preach and give you lectures on how immoral you are to vote for Trump, the people who are the morally superior, highly educated, like Hunter Biden, for example, or Bill Clinton, or Anthony Weiner, or I think one of the former DNC chair people, a whole bunch of the Hall of Shame of Democratic officials, politicians, fundraisers. We don't have to get into that. People who own property on islands. We don't have to get into all of that. These are all lifelong Democrats in major blue cities. And we have to hear about them pontificating and preaching and giving these lectures and sermons on morality. And then the sanctity of, for example, the Senate hearing room. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen, to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications. Go to hjgoodman.com. The Patreon is below in the pinned comment, and the super thanks is below. And I will have live streams this coming week. And all throughout 2024, Trump is leading in swing states, in large part because of the hypocrisy. The Capitol, the Senate hearing room, these chambers of these halls of democracy, these hallowed halls of democratic, our institutions are allegedly being used to film, allegedly, possibly, certain Hunter-esque activities. And so Senator Cardin of Maryland had a staffer fired. We don't know if the fired person was in the tape or video, but there happened to be a video of two individuals engaging in certain activities. And allegedly, possibly, or as the Honorable James Comey says, potentially, when he was asked to testify against Andrew McCabe, he said, potentially. These are wonderful people. Potentially and possibly, two Democratic staffers, or a Democratic staffer and another Democrat, filmed themselves having a romantic relationship in the Senate hearing room of our nation's capital. And meanwhile, January, that fateful day, that terrible day, Democrats are just, indignant, mortified. They can't believe how people would desecrate such a hallowed and storied and important structure for our republic, our democratic institutions. Democracy itself was tarnished by Trump, according to Democrats, who then, of course, now have another scandal and controversy. I'm trying to be algorithmically friendly. Two Democrats apparently filmed themselves having a romantic escapade, a relationship, in the Senate hearing room of our nation's capital. And, of course, this is no big deal for Democrats. It's typical Democratic Party activities and nonsense. They can't. Hunter has a laptop full of where he's like actually weighing illegal narcotics, allegedly, and paying people for certain services, and spending $800,000 on certain individuals for certain services. And all the money, of course, had nothing to do with graft and bribery. It was just business, according to Democrats. Meanwhile, there's an email on Hunter's laptop that says, how can you use your influence on our company's behalf? Literally asking for influence peddling. But of course, there's no evidence. Just hundreds of millions of dollars going through shell companies. And then they make it a tax crime, when obviously the entire planet knows it's about bribery and graft. Then 50 intel officials in 2020 lied through their teeth. And so you have a situation where, is it that big of a deal? I don't know. Who knows how often this took place? You probably don't want to have romantic relationships videotaped in the Capitol, but who knows? I don't know what to make of it other than the absolute hypocrisy. Democrats have turned into the 1980s televangelists, where they get caught, I have sinned, and they get caught, and they preach this gospel of very bizarre ideology. So I believe that everyone should be able to love whomever they want. But I also believe in life prior to 2016. Let's put it this way, okay? After 2016, like, we crossed the Rubicon into complete idiocy. And so now you have very bizarre, twisted, and warped ideologies being taught to even our youngest in this country. And it's like corporations, media, they're just focused on taking down, or media is just focused on taking down Trump. And the majority of the country looks at what's taking place and says, yeah, we don't trust media. Trump is up by 3+ points. The economy stinks because it's all smoke and mirrors. Inflation is at, because of interest rates going through the roof, inflation is somewhat addressed. But when you go to the supermarket, milk, eggs, bread, all of these vegetables, they're all far more expensive than they've ever been. And so you can feel gas prices are slowly going up, and mortgage rates are through the roof. People can't afford to buy a house because of the mortgage rates, even if they have the down payment. Mortgage rate at 6 to 8%, 7%, 8%. So this is all in response to the inflation that they ignored, Democrats. They said was temporary. But you have this obsession with norms and traditions and the sanctity of democracy and how Trump tarnishes the presidency. And here you have Democrats filming themselves, allegedly, potentially, engaged in certain acts, and it's like, no outrage? If these were two supporters of Trump, if these were two voters, two Republicans who did this, it would be yet again another example of how Republicans and Trump have tarnished democracy, the Constitution, the rule of law, the republic, and everything good and holy in this world. But it's typical Democrats. I mean, you can look, the people who pontificate and preach the loudest in this day and age are liberal Democrats, progressives. They yell at the rooftops about their ideologies, their viewpoints. Many of the new ideologies and viewpoints make zero sense. And they're complete. It's like Idiocracy, the movie, but from a liberal. Let's say the cast was all liberal. And these things are taking place, and really nobody cares. This is not that big of a deal. Like, the video itself, what took place, is not that big of a deal. The person who allegedly filmed it, or perhaps the staffer who was fired who allegedly had a part in this film, it's not that big of a deal. The big deal is that you spent 4 years talking about how holy and sanctified and how you revere the nation's capital, and then you film yourself having romantic relationships in the Senate hearing room. It's like, okay. Just another example of hypocrisy, only bolstering Trump's numbers. If you don't understand how, thank God, because we had record low poverty with Trump, and record highs in household median income and a much better foreign policy. He was a great president. The media meltdown was his undoing, really. Hit subscribe to this channel. He'll regain the Oval Office, especially because of these types of stories. Hit subscribe to this channel right now.